Can we get a to-go mojito?
We can do that.
I would like a to-go mojito.
We can do to-go mojito. All right, ready?
Ready?
3, 2. Hi everyone, welcome to Tao Talks. My name is Adam, and
I'm Kate.
And we wanted to take just a few moments and share with you our experience as a family during this time of pandemic. You know, none of this has been super easy, I think, on anybody. But we just kind of, as a family, wanted to offer our unique perspective as a married couple and as parents. So, like, if you were to think about how things are now in comparison to how things were like 4 weeks ago, what are some of the biggest, I mean, like, I know we're all kind of trapped inside at our houses, but what's like some of the biggest differences between things a couple weeks ago and now?
It's friggin' impossible to do my job. It's like trying to herd cats. But you know, I do like that we're all home for dinner every night. Like, that's pretty cool. I'm baking a lot more than I have probably in our entire marriage.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think it's just the lack of activity, because we're a busy family. We, like, I have meetings on Mondays, Gus has scouts, and you have Alpha on Tuesdays. Gus has soccer practice on Wednesdays, and you had other stuff for church on Wednesdays. Thursdays you have youth, and Maggie has dance. And so, like, Fridays is the only day that we didn't all have stuff going on. And we often got together with my family on Fridays and Mondays. So, like, we're not getting together with my family. We're not doing anything else. So, like, it's like two-sided. Like, it's a blessing because we're not running around constantly like, oh, this, oh, that, oh, we're forgetting this, and oh, we gotta, run through the drive-thru and throw burgers at the kids because I forgot to defrost the thing. And so that's cool, but it's also hard.
I think so. I mean, I think one of the hardest things for me, I mean, not only just about working at home all the time, but learning to teach, and I'm not going to for a second pretend that I'm a homeschool teacher because I don't want to for a second try and belittle the work that happens in an actual homeschool environment. But just trying to struggle to get our kids, Gus, who's our son, is in first grade, Maggie, our daughter, is in pre-K 4, and just having the time to try and sit down with them and learn something. Talk about shapes or colors or sentence structure or math or all this kind of stuff. It can be really, really difficult. So that's been one of the biggest difficulties for me. I think that also, by the end of the day, you and I are pretty wiped out.
Yeah, we're wiped out. Just the battle of, like, things that weren't my problem before are now my problem. Like, whether or not he finished his assignments was not, like, that wasn't our job. Mm-hmm. And now it's like a constant battle. But, like, so the other thing is, our kids are, they demand a lot of attention. I think they're normal in that. I think kids in general, I mean, and I'm a big believer, we talked about this a ton, that to raise, like, healthy, well-adjusted kids, you need, like, tons of grown-ups around. They need teachers and coaches and neighbors and Cub Scout leaders and aunts and uncles and cousins that are, like, older that, like, give them attention. And I come from a big family. We live very close to my 7 brothers and sisters, and many of them have significant others, and some of them have kids and dogs. And so my kids are used to a huge community of people at our parish and in our neighborhood and at the scout group and at the dance classes that, like, listen to them and talk to them and correct them. And so now all that need for attention that they have, we're the only ones that can provide it, and that is exhausting.
I think another challenge, if I can be really honest, is my spiritual life it's been really difficult. And not just the fact that we can't be together at our church at Mass, but just actually trying to foster a spiritual life when everything that was so macro becomes so micro, and everything went from this big open world to being a very confined space.
1,300 square feet.
Just finding the time to be alone and pray,
to look at scripture,
meditate, whatever. it feels like there's no time for that. And by the time everyone's asleep and we get some sort of semblance of control on the never-ending mess and the laundry, that like, I'm gonna be honest, like sometimes I just don't have time for God.
And it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of mental energy for me anyway. You know, I'm feeling, and I think I'm not alone in this, but like a lot of spiritual dryness. I know that there is grace in obedience, and I know that there is grace in this struggle, but I'm really missing the grace of the sacraments. When I personally go a long time without confession, I don't like that. It's been a pretty long time now.
Yeah. I think for me, like one of the things I've had to try and adapt to as far as my spiritual life is concerned for me personally is I have to kind of take this very Eastern ethos into my prayer life, into my spirituality, that like everything has become a prayer. Like everything becomes my spirituality.
And by Eastern, you mean?
Like Eastern Catholicism.
Yeah.
Like, so like the Eastern Church, you know, like
Father Andre.
they are a good friend of ours who is a Ukrainian Catholic priest taught us about this Eastern spirituality within the Eastern Catholic rite, about you know, like literally making every part of your breath and every movement of your day. You can't necessarily say that everything you're doing, you're speaking a prayer, but you're being mindful, like just really trying to achieve mindfulness in more things. Because that's helping me keep my sanity, you know, because this is so far out of my scope of what I can handle. And, you know, Scripture says that God doesn't put anything in your way that you can't handle, but gives you a way to persevere through that. Not to say that God's just going to pull us out of a mess, but that He's going to give us the tools to do what we need to do as parents and as spouses and as neighbors.
People in, like I think everybody knows there's a much greater need for food banks.
Yeah.
I think there's been a lot of press about like how so many people are out of work. Hey, buddy, you have lipstick on your face now. Oh, okay. Trying to give when we have, you know, when we are at the grocery store trying to pick up an extra thing of this, that, the other that's non-perishable, so we can take that to the food bank here. When you're talking about spirituality, just trying to continue to turn it over to God. Like, I don't think I've ever been more confronted by my own powerlessness than I am right now. And trying to turn that over in trust, even when I don't know if trusting, when I don't necessarily think that trusting is a good idea. Just trying to believe that trusting is good.
Absolutely. And, you know, as we were kind of talking about how we were even going to address all of this, like, I think that one of the things that we talked about was when we are talking with other friends who have families, I think that a lot of times people ask questions like, well, like I got people asking me questions today before we started about, like, how do you best make time for learning at home? And how do you maintain routine, and how do you do the day-to-day stuff? How do you make time for faith in all of this? And I think that the thing that we kind of came to was like, stop trying to make this work. Like, stop trying to do the Pinterest version of what pandemic quarantine looks like. Just do your best. Like, it doesn't have to be an Instagram snapshot every time.
What is he doing?
I don't know. It doesn't have to be picture perfect. It suit your family. You know, we as a family for so long tried really hard to limit screen time. You know, like we were gonna, like for a really long time before this all happened, we were like, okay, we're gonna watch movies together, and that's really kind of the extent of how we watch TV. And as things have gone on, it's, hey, here's your tablet, buddy. Go hang out for a little while, you know. Hey, yeah, we'll watch another movie again, and that's not a bad thing. You know, there's grace in those moments where even we're just glued to tab. Like, even the other day, we were all sitting around, and like I was on my phone, and you were on your phone, and the kids were on their tablets, and it was quiet.
Yes.
And nobody was screaming, nobody was running. There wasn't anything. There weren't any fires to put out, and we could just be silent.
And like a lot of people, I think, feel like they should be using this time to be productive. And like, I mean, yeah, we all have to eat. We all have to have clean clothes, so that we need to be productive in some way. And I think, like, one of the things that I have found has worked for us is, and I'm very grateful that I did this, but right before, when everybody was running out to buy all the toilet paper and all the pasta, I went and bought a bunch of art supplies. I went and got colored pencils and watercolors and construction paper and clay, because I was like, if the kids aren't going to have school, we're going to have a lot of downtime. And so, like, we are making a lot of art, both because it keeps the kids occupied, but also because I think it helps us to have a creative outlet. But we're not trying. I think it's okay to say, I'm not going to use this time to be productive. I think, like, if you have the opportunity to, like, exercise a bunch more, that's awesome. And if you have the opportunity to, like, do a sourdough starter and, like, make a bunch of bread, that's great. And there are benefits to this. Like, I love the fact that we get to have dinner together as a family every single night. If you can use this time, if you're able to use this time to, like, do a 30-day exercise routine, or to bake a bunch of sourdough bread, or to do home improvements, or to work on the garden. I would really like to work on the garden. If you can do that, that's awesome. But I think it's important for us to recognize that we are, like, this is traumatic. We're very lucky that we are safe. We both still have jobs, thank God. We have all the things that we need. Obviously, of course, as with everyone, we have very dear family members that are in very high-risk demographics, and we're kind of running around sometimes like chickens with our heads cut off, going to 4 stores trying to find Lysol spray. But in general, we're okay. That doesn't make it not traumatic. Our entire lives have been turned upside down. Our routine is destroyed. A lot of things that we relied on for comfort and stability and health are gone. We're not allowed to see our family. And, you know, I mentioned it before, but we have a big family. We would get together every single week for Sunday dinner. And we haven't done that since this started. It's traumatic to, number one, be removed from everything that is normal. And number two, to be under constant threat of an invisible danger. Obviously, you know, you would never compare it to World War II or London under the Blitz or anything like that. But I think that we kid ourselves if we deny the real trauma of this, that, you know, if you don't feel like you can be productive, that's okay. Just getting through the day is fine. And you see all these things about, like, oh, just sitting home on your couch, that's a good way to be a hero. And I gotta tell you, I resent the heck out of those, because, like, they're like, oh, this is the easiest thing you've ever done to save lives. Like, excuse me, this is not easy. I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to educate my kid. I'm trying to keep us all safe. I'm trying to keep us all entertained. I'm trying to keep us all from burning the house down. I'm trying to keep us all from murdering each other. It is stressful and it is difficult. And I think we are all, I mean, obviously I can't speak for anyone else, but, like, the impression that I get from many of my friends and family members is we are all exhausted. We're all anxious. We're all raw. You know, we're all sensitive. We're all sniping at each other, whether it's in person or over text or in social media. And I think that's okay. Obviously, it's not okay to disrespect each other, but I think it's okay to say, the thing I'm doing during this quarantine is surviving.
I think too, you said something that was really important to me is not giving into, like, the spirit of comparison. That, you know, because we are all so plugged in right now, that we don't just look at the lives that other people are living, because we always put our best foot forward. You know, we always try and make everything Instagram perfect. And I think that it's not fair of us to compare ourselves to what other people are doing, because we're not really getting the authentic version of other people's lives, especially right now, because we all just want to act like we're okay. I think that things that are positives for us are, we are like you mentioned, we're distant from the sacraments, but we're not distant from the church. The church isn't closed. We're just expanding. You know, so often we hear from great saints about the church is the building where we worship, but it's more than just that. It is expanding beyond those walls, and we have the ability to worship together at home. You know, we can do mass at home. We can pray together at home. It's just as important to make time for that stuff as it is for those FaceTime calls or Zoom meetings or whatever, where we can hang out and have a glass of wine or a beer or a cup of tea and just talk with people, because those moments around even a virtual table are little moments that Jesus would have done himself. You know, so much of the important work that Jesus did in people's lives was done around tables and breaking bread. So we have that ability to do that ourselves during this time. My other thing that I was thinking about is, even though it's not easy for me, I own that it's not easy for me, but just making time, setting the alarm, the reminder on your phone to make 3 minutes to read something out of the gospel or to read something out of the New Testament, to take 30 seconds and tell God what it is that you're thinking and how you're feeling. I obviously, in me, it's really important for me to always try and put gratitude forward to God, but it's also been a real comfort to me to know that God is okay with my discomfort and God is okay with my frustration. That if I have to sit on my couch and just angrily yell at God in my psyche or whatever to him for like 30 seconds, he understands that that's an authentic prayer and that there's nothing wrong with that. I think that it's important to find what's best for you and to do that. Don't try and shoehorn yourself into somebody else's definition of what family life is supposed to look like right now. And just be open and honest with people. You know, like we have our community around us that we can turn to. And I think it's really, really important for us to remember to tell each other, like, hey, I'm not okay right now. And again, guys, like, no one's trying to focus in on the negative in all of this, but I think owning the negative and seeing that it's there helps us kind of strive and thrive in this. Is that if we just turn a blind eye to it, we're never going to get through.
It's like awareness, acceptance, action.
Right.
If we deny that something is difficult, then we can never come to the solution. But by acknowledging that some things are hard, then we can say, okay, well, maybe there's some things that we can do that will help with this. I struggle with mental health issues. Who doesn't? And the week before Easter, Holy Week, I had a really difficult spell, a couple of real hard days. And we were able to come up with some solutions of things that would help. It helps me when I can get out and walk the dog. And so I'm going to try to do that. Just a little, I'm not going to try to, do 5 miles a day, but 3 times a day I'm going to take the dog around the block. And that helps, getting outside for me. Listing things we're grateful for is super helpful. And diving into things that the kids are interested in. That's been fun for us. Maggie has caught some kind of creature. Gus has gotten really into cryptids, like the Loch Ness Monster, the Abominable Snowman, Bigfoot. And so when he's done with his assignments, after we've had the battle where we get him to finish his assignments, we've been looking for documentaries and TV shows that talk about cryptids and talk about the Loch Ness Monster and other mythical creatures, and allowing him to do that. And then we'll watch this documentary and we'll learn about it, and then he'll draw 15 pictures of it, and then we'll look up an article and read it, or we'll find a podcast and we'll listen to it, and allowing him to dive into the things that he's interested in. Maggie, one thing that she has really enjoyed from this is watching live cams of zoo animals. And nature documentaries. She also has enjoyed, we planted some flowers out front, and she likes watching the flowers grow. Maggie's my little mother nature lady. She loves the outdoors. And she also has started teaching the dog tricks. She'll just get like a pocket full of treats, and then she'll call him over and make him sit and give him a paw, and so it's been fun to help them, like, I see you're teaching the dog a trick. Let's look up some YouTube videos about how to train dogs, and just kind of letting them dive in, because they're not in school and we're not homeschooling, but we can try to keep them engaged.
So yeah, I know that this has been, a lot, and I know that this may not be your situation. Maybe you guys are doing great, and that's great, and that's really awesome, and I appreciate everything that you're doing to keep your family together. And maybe if you've got things that are helpful for you during this time, drop it in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure you share it with us.
We'll take all the suggestions, because we are not experts.
But we just want to be an encouragement to you that no matter where you're at, whether you're feeling like you've got everything together or you're feeling like you've got nothing together at all, that God is still with us through all of this. And not only that, but he sees our sacrifice and he's proud of us. He understands what we're going through. We just came out of hearing the story about Christ sacrificing himself for us. And he does these things in Scripture so that when we look to God, we know that we can see a God who understands us, even in our lowest points and even in our suffering. Come here, let me see.
What is it?
It's an ant.
Oh, ants.
So guys, we thank you for joining us on Tau Talks. We hope that your family's doing well. Stay tuned with us. Stay connected with us by visiting us online, AssumptionSYR.org. All right, guys, we hope you're having a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching.
God bless. Thanks for coming.
A friend's aunt.
You got a friend ant? That's amazing.
Weird.